this is the
is.
big.
So what have you found for me? What have you got for me?
Oh man, Mike, this is
Huh?
swamp. This is swamp
Swamp,
files.
the swamp donkeys.
The swamp gas files, man. And it ain't about not just about. It's all about aliens and extraterrestrials and weird
Right.
events. But I think the main thing about swamp gas files is the lack of transparency the government or the authorities are being or show demonstrating to the
Right.
public, kind of like with the aliens and the UFOs, and we're even seeing it here with our local news and their assassination attempts, things like
Right.
that. Just this kind of like swamp gas. Everything is it's just swamp gas. So don't
Yeah.
worry
Don't worry
about it.
about this. There's nothing to see here. Move along.
Right. So along those lines, and I think even though this show isn't specifically about extraterrestrials, I think it's about the government not being transparent with events that are really rocking the nation. I mean, it's just
Right.
not a small localized event. It's an event that has grasped the attention of the nation, and they kind of like are slow walking it. They don't seem to really be pursuing closure or finding out what's going on. So it leads a lot. It creates a lot of conspiracies, rabbit trails. People are like, "What's going on? It must be this, must be that." So, kind of what I've done is I put together a bubble chart. Ta-da!
Oh. Oh. I wondered how long it would take to get to this point.
Yeah,
Usually it takes years.
yes. This is all in my head, and I wrote it out on a whiteboard. But it
That
kind of it,
whiteboard is all you had all that information in your head.
all the I think it's 30 words, all in my head. I had to get it out.
No wonder you had to get that whiteboard. All
But
that information there
yeah,
is
that's
sitting
why I've been
there. All right. Okay.
driving
So
me
what do we got?
crazy.
What do we got?
Well, we're talking
That's right.
about that attempted assassination we had a month ago now. It was a month right here. One murder and three injured
Right.
just in that one event. And it seems like
Right.
there's no they're not really leading the public to where initially after the first within 24 hours they said, oh, some guy tried to kill Trump and he's a lone shooter. He's got no
Right.
associates. And now it's kind of it appears that he's not alone. And they came up with that conclusion so quickly. People are like, wait a minute, you haven't even investigated it yet. So, anyways, by their lack of transparency, we come up with a lot of things. And I started out, the assassination, right? And they've determined that it's crooks. But then there's a lot of things that have transpired since then. Uh, Everyone's kind of in agreement that it is crooks, but they
Right.
won't release the details of the autopsy. And ablechild.com, they've FOIA'd it. They're trying to get the autopsy information, but it's kind of they won't release it because for whatever reason they're not family. There's this kind of like, well, it should be belong to the public. This is all tax dollars. So in a way, they're not really confirming that it's crooks, which brings up the question. There's an associate. I sent you the article of crooks, and that's Maxwell
Right.
Yearin. And did you
You're.
find out
Yeah. What
anything
was
about
that?
him?
I was going to, and then you
Okay.
sent me a link.
Right, and it was just he's associated with crooks. I don't remember exactly how. Maybe a visitor to his home, but
Mm-hmm.
what what pointed to him was, well, there are a couple of things. There was a van that was parked in the parking lot, a white van that had plates. Someone was able to get the plates. They traced the plates back to, and I believe it's either New Mexico or Arizona, and it belonged to a firearms dealer who also dealt in explosives. who belongs to the family with the last name Urich. And so Maxwell is assumed to be part of this family. And so now it's kind of like, well, the explosives was made that were found in the van or found in Crooks's car may come from this firearms dealer, possibly. We don't know.
Right.
But anyways, the day after the assassination attempt, Maxwell's family called and reported him missing. So as far as we know, he hasn't been found yet. So it's kind of like, well, did he drive the van to, this rally and then end up getting up on the roof and shooting? And could it be Maxwell's body that's not being released to the public, and they're just putting it on Crooks because Crooks has left the country or whatever? But anyway, that's just kind of a rabbit hole. I mean,
Crooks in one sense or another has left the planet. He's dead.
Somebody's dead. We believe it's Crooks is dead.
But, okay, so basically they're withholding so much information that we're not really even sure that Crooks is the body that they have.
Well, the autopsy, the medical examiner said, oh, yes, it's Crooks. But he won't release the autopsy.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's kind of like, because there was a report, a surgeon who worked a lot of years in the trauma ER, saw a lot of gunshot wounds and investigations involving gunshots. She saw the pictures of Crooks laying on the roof, and she's like, there's no brain matter, there's no blood splatter. It looks like he got laid there after he was shot, because there was some blood trickling out. I saw a picture, out of his head and on down the roof. But she said, if you got shot with, I'm assuming probably, I'm not
that's
sure
what high-powered
use.
Right, they're high-powered sniper rifles. So
probably a 50 caliber would kind of blow half your head off. Even if it was a 7.62 round, still relieve a significant damage. But anyway, she said the back of his head should have been blown off and this and that. But anyway, she's just going off a picture. So she didn't do the autopsy.
That's assuming it was a headshot. Now, as a sniper, do snipers automatically, or do they aim for the center of mass? I mean, do they always aim for the head?
I mean, that distance you could do a headshot, and it's probably all they could see because the guy was laying down.
Right. Okay. Good point.
Now, typically, center mass, chest. Typically, a sniper in the military scenario doesn't shoot to kill; they shoot to injure. That way, you get more people around the body, so you can kill more people. Just kind of a bait
right.
trap.
The people come to his aid, and right.
And that, I never was a law enforcement sniper, so I'm assuming they shot to kill because he was shooting at the president. So
yeah, I'm sure they did.
It should have been this.
I mean, from police. I mean, you're a police officer. You guys, when you discharge your weapon, you go for a kill. You're not.
Right. Yeah. You don't shoot for the arms or the legs or anything. You shoot center mass.
Yeah, you're going.
Right. You don't necessarily shoot for the head. But center mass, you can hit center mass, you're going to injure him severely or kill him. So typically center mass. And if you got a high power scope and you've been trained, yes, you could shoot for the head and expect to hit the head. I mean, well-trained snipers should pretty much get within a quarter, inch of where they want to hit.
Wow.
So anyways, there's some questions about the autopsy, why, let's release it. Let's find out who it is. We know he's dead. It's not like we know he was shot in the head, so I don't know what they would be hiding with the autopsy. And also associate with the shooting, I'm not going to go into all like we had discussed in our previous shows about the rooftops and this elevation, and I don't want to get into all that. We've already been through that. I just want to get down some of these rabbit trails where a witness that was there on scene got picked up by the police and questioned. First, he was picked up by the FBI, then the police came and contacted him. So he kind of ran in several law enforcement agents over the course of several days. But just recently, he posted on his X or his Twitter feed that he was being, the day of the shooting, he was being questioned by law enforcement, and he overheard on the radio.
Radio chatter. Or maybe that was you and I talking about it.
Someone said there's blood in the sink. over the radio, and then also there was, we still haven't found the second shooter, something like that. Something is kind of like, and he remembers that as like, wow, that's weird. But like I said, it's unsubstantiated, meaning it's just hearsay. He's saying he heard this. But if you heard it over the radio, that's very easy. I was in law enforcement. All your radio traffic, especially on a day like that where there's a lot going on and you know it's going to be a case, that's all preserved. That's, you can always access that. It can be FOIA'd. The public should have access to that radio traffic, and that would tell you whether that was actually said or not. Was that in the log of all the radio traffic? So that is evidence that should be preserved and easily, proven whether it's true or
Verified,
false.
yeah.
Because as soon as they found the guy, I'm sure they ran his ID, so they would have known the exact time they had interaction with this individual and would be able to reference what was the radio traffic was. So that's interesting that this came up a few days ago about this overhearing this radio chat. So that kind of brings us back to, if you look at the second shooter here, I got a line going up to Max because it's believed Max was at the rally also somehow, some way. And there's a water tower that, I don't know if you saw the video, there's a water tower that had good line of sight. It's further away from the target, but it's a good elevated position, good line of sight. And there's video evidence of somebody being on the water tower on that day around the time of the shooting.
And of course, it wouldn't have been a law enforcement or Secret Service because they were what? They didn't put a person on a wall.
They should have been a law enforcement officer, but there's no record. Nobody's mentioned that they had anyone there. From what I know, from what I've read, there was security detail outside the area of the event, which were mainly patrol cars, and they were coordinating traffic. So there was no mention of the water tower. Even the building that Crooks was on was outside the perimeter of the event.
They actually had people inside the building that Crooks was on, and they said, well, it was just too hot. It's like,
right. And
that's a great excuse. Oh, it's too hot. Anyway,
the thing I was going to say, but I think law enforcement came back. The local law enforcement said no. They were never told to go on the roof. They were told to go into the building. They complained, supposedly, according to officers that have kind of blew the whistle. They complained that they should have been on the roof. They felt that was a good position for a sniper or a shooter to go up and take a shot at the president. So they brought it up. We should be on the roof. But supposedly Secret Service said, no, just go in the building. That should be fine. So
wow.
Law enforcement, and there's video out there online about the law enforcement. They're trying to get up on the roof to get Crooks, and they're running around. There's no ladder. They're trying to figure out how to get up there. They know he's up there. And that was happening like 3 or 4 minutes before the shooter fired. So that was enough time to get Trump off the stage. But that's the whole thing, is like they knew long enough time out before the shots fired to get Trump off the stage, but they never did. Which is, they haven't really given a good reason why they didn't remove him from the stage.
Well, I think this is really, and you brought this up earlier. There's like this arrogance inside, or seemingly so, from an outside perspective. When you hear this stuff, the way they treat public access to government information or information held by the government, you're treated as like a nuisance, a pariah, And you're right. This is across the board where government agencies feel like they are no longer servants of the public. They don't have to answer to the public. And if you want information, you're going to have to go through the bureaucratic maze.
Right.
And there's a level of like understanding, like, yes, there is information out there that should be secure. But this kind of stuff, this is all after the fact. You know what I
Right.
mean?
He's
This is all,
and now we got to
the
protect
damage has
these other
already been
rallies.
done. The event has already happened. You have supposedly have the shooter, right? Supposedly they have the body,
Right.
he's dead. But it's like everything, information is locked down even harder. So you can't even see
Yeah.
what really happened. Well, you don't know. It becomes more confusing. And if you look, I mean, a lot of this information I'm looking at. So I just did Maxwell Urich, Googled under their news search. All this is 1 month ago. Fact check: convicted anti-Trump protester falsely identified as shooter 1 month ago. Maxwell Urich named as, that's 1 month ago. 1 month ago. 4 weeks ago. 1 month ago. There's nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, let me see if I can change this. I probably can change the search. Most recent. Past hour. I mean, I'm just seeing if you can. Anyway, it just seems to me there's nothing, if you put, there's nothing recent. It's like nobody's reporting on this. It's done. They're done.
You're right.
And yet
it was never brought up at congressional hearings. This was kind of just brought up by interested private citizens or interested parties going, well, who's this guy? Who belongs to this van? You know, and kind of, to me, I haven't read anything official report on Maxwell other than that he was, they said he was missing. His family said that he's been missing. So other than that, right. And that kind of, but something not really associated, I don't think it's associated with Crooks, is I don't know if you heard about the Iranian assassin that came to the United States to kill Trump.
Yes, right. You were telling me about that. Yeah. Yes. But other than that, I haven't.
He came through, I think it was JFK. I'm not sure which airport, but he was actually stopped by the FBI and questioned because he came out on a watch out for list, meaning if this guy tries to come to the country, we need to talk to him. He wasn't necessarily on a, no fly or he's on basically, I guess, a terrorist watch where they would kind of, find out. Hopefully you'd think they'd send him home, but they didn't. They contacted him, they questioned him, and in the report that came out, the questioning FBI agent said that he was polite and cooperative, so they let him go.
Well, really, that's all you're looking for, right?
Yeah. So I think he's the only terrorist that exists who is polite and cooperative. See, that's where the other ones are screwing up.
Boy, I'll tell you what, had he been rude, it would have been a whole different story. He'd have been looking at the inside of an uncomfortable, smaller room for half an hour.
Yes.
So he smartened up real quick and said, "It's the small."
He is extremely well trained.
This is how you get out a half an hour early. Be really, really polite. Okay. Now we know what.
Go ahead. Obviously, sometimes they'll let people go because they're going to follow him and see where he goes. You collect more intelligence. Yeah, supposedly. But later on, local law enforcement, I guess he started hiring people to kill Trump, and he contacted a couple undercover cops, and then they reported it to the FBI, so the FBI got involved after local law enforcement actually brought FBI's attention to him again.
The FBI got involved, helping him acquire assassins for the job. Anyway, yeah.
How polite you are. If you've got a gun or you're trying to hurt someone, they're going to go. No matter how polite you're doing it, how courteous you are.
Please help me find someone to assassinate the president. I mean, it's getting, we talked about this earlier, and I know everybody's thinking this. This is like so beyond. There's so much that's beyond the realm of common sense. The whole Epstein thing just comes to mind, where you just kind of go, this can't be real. But I think there's such an arrogance in these agencies. They just go, what are they going to do about it? What can they do? Exactly. We're going to give them a story. They can believe it or don't, and then we'll make them look like fools because it's all obviously they're all conspiracy theorists, like Mel Gibson in
Right.
the show, who's crazy.
Yeah.
We're obviously the crazy people because we're asking reasonable questions,
Right.
but we're
Critical thinker.
crazy conspiracy theorists. And then you kind of go, well, how much other stuff are they lying to us? If they think we're that stupid, then they're lying to us about everything, because really, why not? Why just lie about a few things when you can lie about everything? I mean, it
Right.
really,
Right.
you kind of go, oh, this is just unbelievable.
I
Unbelievable.
believe it's the reverse, where they have been lying about everything for decades, but we haven't really. We just take it at face value. The media has been, repeating everything. So I believe what's happening is there's an awakening. People are starting to get more inquisitive about these organizations, these federal organizations, because weird
It,
stuff is happening.
yes, Chris, here's the weird thing. And this is just my opinion, okay? But I think people aren't really waking up.
Right.
I
Right.
think
Yeah.
I think that honestly, there's a small cater of people, a cadre of people that are like going, well, this is weird.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
you know, why aren't more people? But it's like anything, and I get it. Look, I get it. Everybody has jobs, they have kids, you have
Yeah.
responsibilities. It's like, what does this have to do with me? Not much, really. So I kind of get it.
Yeah.
We only have so much time in the day. I think as retired gentlemen of leisure as we are,
We
we
can
have all
we
this
can
time
delve
to
into all
change
this
stuff.
swamp gas.
But it drives me nuts. I just think of this and I go, this is so arrogant and just this wouldn't, I think of dad, our father saying to one of our older brothers, who do you think I am? One of your stupid friends? Our dear brother John was feeding our father a cock and bull story about something had happened. And my dad would just either thought he saw through it or did see through it. I don't know the whole parameters of what was going on, but he says to my brother, who do you think I am? One of your stupid friends? And I think that's what we have to start saying to our government. Who do you think we are? One of your stupid coworkers that's paid to just turn the other, go.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
saying that it's very hard to convince a person of an issue when they're paid to be not convinced of it. And there's a lot of
Yeah.
truth to that. A lot of these guys
Yeah.
are paid. I don't know why they're paid, but they're paid. Okay.
And some
And
money. Yeah. And going on from that, we talked, but the main thing that gets me about this Iranian assassin
yeah,
is the Secret Service was told that there was a viable threat against Trump's life to be, used. This is intelligence. There was an active threat from the Iranian government on former President Trump. Take the necessary precautions. So here they have this guy in country who is a threat. And guess what? They didn't take any precautions. A 20-year-old got up on the roof and took a shot. So obviously they didn't. They seem to do less with the more intelligence they got and the more alert status they need to be on. They seem to reduce their
they
level.
actually went the other way. And I think, you know what? You really have to ask yourself the question, you know, was there a real attempt to remove security so someone did have an opportunity to take him out? That's the conclusion you can come to by
Yeah.
looking at the, and you just have to say to yourself, Chris, you were special forces. You're trained to do a job. I would imagine you know how to do it. That
Right.
doesn't mean
Right.
that everybody is competent. There are people that make mistakes and stuff. But I think at this level of, when you're dealing with high profile
Yeah.
VIPs
Yeah.
that they would want, certain level of security and demand that.
That kind of goes back to, okay, so the threat level for that this individual is going to get assassinated had just gone up to like the highest threat level. Uh, that means you'd probably want to take your most experienced agent and put them in a supervisory role to set up security, to oversee the site. But from what I'm hearing is they didn't get their most competent agent. that did the site survey and the security plan. So that's what the whistleblowers are coming out saying. This person that they had selected was not ready for such a task.
Was that is that the lady that's the head of the security thing?
Yeah,
That was
female officer, and I think it was the one that was hiding behind the other guys during the shooting.
is she the one that couldn't put her that she couldn't put her gun back in the holster?
Yeah, I believe it's her because there were pictures during the site that some reporters had taken and they published of the site team, you know, like a few days before, and you could tell she was one of the site team that was doing the reconnaissance, the setup. So, and I guess the word's gotten out that it was a female, and there's a picture of her before the event, you know, with a group of guys, you know, orchestrating.
Well, with the level of
I'm assuming it was her.
Yeah. Well, with the level of competency that's been going on, we should really fact check all that information because I don't. It just seems that the track record's getting worse, not better.
Right.
So I mean,
it kind of goes
now they're pointing out some poor woman. They point out, oh yeah, she was in charge. It's like she probably had nothing to do with anything. She probably just like they just handed me this gun and told me to put it in the holster, and all of a sudden everybody's taking my picture. And
she's actually in sunglasses. Yeah, they pulled me out of the crowd. I was wearing a Biden hat.
Nobody will know. Don't worry, nobody will know what you're doing. Just go ahead and try to put that gun in the holster. And she turns out to be a secretary or a janitor for the White House or something. And they pulled her in for the afternoon. I mean, that's probably. Right. I mean, the way this thing is going,
very well be it. It could very well be it. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying is the way
this
thing's
the funny thing is they're not telling us. They're not telling us.
Get out of here.
You know, so anyway, so that, you know, they should have heightened their status, their alert status on, okay, there's an active threat against Trump. He's actually in the country, because this was in April when he entered the country, and they arrested him the day before the rally. So maybe they just, but anyway, it should have been an excessive alert, you know, security alert, be on the lookout for this, or I don't know. I mean, I did look a lot of security and police stuff. That's how I would have assumed it would happen and work its way through the system. But obviously, it didn't seem to affect the Secret Service that much. So that's kind of this side of the board. And then I have on the other side, we have the DNC. This is January 6, 2021. The DNC pipe bomb and the Capitol protest. And the reason I put that in here and have the dotted line is because it's strange that this information about the DNC pipe bomber has now come out again since the Trump assassination attempt. And the reason it came out again, there's whistleblowers that have come forward and said, obviously they haven't found the pipe bomber. They have they could track his phone. They have a video of him planting the bombs. You know, that all this stuff, they should be able to find this guy after going on 4 years, 3.5 years. But, you know, they can't find this one guy. But he plants the bomb. And then the VP, the vice president at the time, the Capitol protest starts getting pretty active. So they decide to move out of the DNC, and they walk her within 20 feet of this pipe bomb. So obviously she's in extreme danger. They don't know the pipe bomb's there. It's been there for, I guess, 6 to 8 hours, you know, all day pretty much. So they didn't even clear the building? I don't know.
Yeah, well, back me up here, because we talked about a little bit about this before, but just for the sake of the video. So when we talked about this, what we're trying to do here is present somewhat of an unbiased kind of look. You're a security expert in security, obviously 20 years special forces, 10 years in the police force. You got a lot of experience. So what we're trying to do is paint a picture that because there's this connection between the pipe bomb in the 4 years ago, the connection is the equipment, the manufacturing.
No, the connection is the lack of transparency. Because what I was getting at, so the VP walks within, I mean, obviously they didn't do a sweep of the building. They were unable to find the pipe bomb. All that should
Right.
happen wherever any VIP goes, and they have responsibility. They do room sweeps. They do clear.
Right.
They just go through the whole, making sure that there's no killers or
Sure.
bombs and things like that.
Making
So
sure there's no
obviously
bombs.
it wasn't
Yet
done
they
very
didn't.
well.
So
She
how?
was within
So
20 feet of it.
so
But
Phil,
what
let me let
no,
me
I'm
ask
just
you a
saying, but
question.
go ahead.
Go ahead. I want to ask you a question. So with a bomb, what do they use? Like sniffer dogs?
Yeah, oh yeah,
What
they
do
could use dogs. I mean, it depends on what they have available. They could do sweeps with detectors, like mine detectors, metal detectors.
they? Okay.
Uh,
Just curious. I
any,
was just
any kind of.
curious on how they
It
did that.
depends on the situation. And I'm not familiar with the facility or the team. That's the vice president. She was the incoming vice president. She had
Sure.
already been elected.
Right.
That was the day that they were making the decision. But technically, she was the vice president of the United States, so she should have had that full uh, posse of Secret Service agents. Um, but the thing that was strange is the nation knew about the pipe bomb. No one was really aware. Very few were aware that she was that close to the bomb and it didn't go off. And
Right.
so there was an investigation that was conducted. And what we have found out recently is all the all the investigators that were involved in the investigation, a couple months after the investigation, the Secret Service collected their phones and gave them new phones. So all their
Wow.
text messages, anything about the investigation was erased. So it's kind of like, well, why are they covering up this? Obviously, was a blunder where they put the vice president of the country in serious jeopardy by walking her by a pipe bomb. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so it kind of demonstrates not so much the inability or the incompetence of the agents, but the people overseeing, the people managing. Why would they want to cover up this? It was a screw up. Why do you want to hide that? Why do you want to delete? Because deleting a file to us is like, who cares? But when you delete anything from an investigation, that's a felony offense. And if you're doing it to a bunch of phones, conspiracy. So I
Right.
mean, this is a very serious crime. If there's evidence of a potential crime or a crime, you just delete the files and try to sweep it under the rug. Those are felony offenses. So basically, whoever instructing them to delete files and this that is breaking the law. I mean, it
Yeah.
comes down to.
Well, I mean, here's the
So
thing, and here's the thing, Chris. Nobody is able to hold anybody accountable because obviously they have these guys. They had the head of the FBI or the head of the Secret Service. Can't remember who he is to testify about that whole fiasco. And these guys just go, "Well, we're taking this very seriously. We're all hurting. Everyone's hurting." And I'm just thinking, the guy's dead. The shooter's
yeah,
dead. You got a member of the audience that was there at the Trump rally. The fire guy's dead. The firefighter's dead. His family's hurting. You got
right,
you
right.
got the wound. You got Trump who was wounded. You got the shooters who are involved, and yet we still have no information. They can't hold the head of whoever he was, the Secret Service or the FBI. I can't remember who he was. They can't hold him accountable because he's hurting. I mean, he's hurting. Everybody's hurting. We're trying to get to the bottom of this. It's like
We're all grieving.
nobody's getting to the bottom of anything because he won't release any information.
Right. And
Nothing
that's
is being released.
right.
I mean,
So
just anyway.
yeah, no, I'm totally with you. I mean, that's in a way we have to investigate the investigators because we're having these agencies investigate themselves. Obviously, they're
Right.
hiding stuff, and the point is, they're deleting stuff, sweeping stuff under the rug. They're hiding evidence to show their incompetence or to show their culpability. I mean, are they involved somehow, or are they just incompetent? I mean, I don't know.
Well, there's a point. Incompetence is one person losing a phone. A
Right,
conspiracy is one person deleting all the information on 20 or 30 phones. That's
right, right,
that's
right,
not
right.
that's not incompetent
That was
by any stretch
purposeful.
of the.
Right.
I
Yes.
mean, and that's what I mean. You cannot pin these people down because you have one government agency who's doing who knows what, investigating
Yeah.
another government agency who doing who knows what because we're not given any information. And so it's like, well, if we hold them to, we hold their feet to the fire, well, then maybe they're going to start holding our feet to the fire. So maybe we should be careful about how much pressure we put on this.
And then you have the director of Homeland Security, and is that Merrick Garland? So he's in charge of those organizations. So he's going to choose an investigative team to investigate the teams he's in charge of. So obviously, what is prompting him to do the right thing if they're going to make him look bad because they're all incompetent or whatever? You know what I'm saying? So you can't have this internal. My guys are going to look at your guys look at my guys, and we'll see how things work. You're going to have that outside organization doing the investigation, private organization.
We're going to have to bring the Iranians into this and have them investigate it because obviously they're really polite for one thing. They're very polite and cooperative. That's the main thing.
Yeah,
and that's obviously a big deal for government agencies. But anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's kind of all I had. Really, was just kind of what are we dealing with here? I mean, there's a lot of things that are coming out, but nothing. They're just rumors, and rumors are bad. They corrupt thought and everything like that. So we want to get to the truth, and the Secret Service, the FBI, they should be able to clear up a lot of these conspiracies. And they're complaining, going, "Oh, there's too many of these conspiracy theories are confusing people." Okay, well, tell us what the truth is. And that will
no. Chris, that's the whole ongoing investigation. Here's the thing: they have nothing to gain by telling the truth.
Right.
They have nothing. They're not going to. No one's going to say, "Good job," because these guys, if it wasn't ineptitude, it was a conspiracy to commit murder. Again, the murder of a politician, whether you like him or not. And then you have to answer your question, was that event with Kamala Harris, and we talked about this again a little bit beforehand, that event with Kamala Harris, was that like an option? You brought this up, was the whole event where Kamala walks within striking distance of a bomb, she was no more than 20 feet away, was that like an option if the event at the Capitol, if the riot at the Capitol wasn't going the way of whoever was allowing a lot of this stuff to happen? And a lot of people believe it was Trump, but I don't think it was Trump. I don't think, I mean, I watched some of the stuff he said at the time and I thought, he's not really discouraging this. I mean, he thought it looked like he thought it was funny. That's my opinion. From he thought it was kind of like he's smirking, going, "Oh, I can't remember what he said, but it was like I thought at the time. I thought, wow, that he's not discouraging this." So that apart from that, but I'm just saying that if that was
if they go to your home, go home peacefully.
Yeah, but my point is with Kamala Harris, when they walked her with 20 feet of the bomb, was that like an option? Like, hey, if things don't go our way in option one, we've got option two. The bomb goes off, either wounds Kamala Harris or kills her. Right. But that's an option. So we typically have a group walk her within striking distance. And I'm not saying I don't know who would do that. I don't know. I mean, I could think of why, but you kind of wonder if that's going on. That area is supposed to be swept for bombs and maybe people that are. If you're walking somebody out of a, you tell me.
Yeah, no, I agree that typically when you make a plan, anybody usually have a plan A, plan B. If A doesn't work, then we'll go to plan B. Kind of like with Crooks taking the shot from the rooftop, and it appears there may be a second shooter. That's plan A, plan B. If Crooks misses, we got planned another shooter there, or they both shoot. Someone's got to hit him. So typically, you want to have a backup like that. So that's why there's supposedly the water tower, and there was been a report that it looked like there's a flash from a window, possibly a second shooter in one of the windows of his building, but it's unsubstantiated. But the goes back to the point. Why doesn't the FBI or the Secret Service clear up these questions? Why don't they address it? Let us know what happened instead of everyone coming out with their own hypothesis of what may have happened and transpired when they should have this investigation all knitted up in a nice bow. But here we sit.
You go back to the Kennedy assassination. That was 50 years ago.
People still are arguing about what actually happened.
I mean, they're still fighting over the information. They supplied all kind of FOIAs requests,
right.
And they're still not releasing information. And you kind of get the impression
that was involved in it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you get the impression that the government, I look at. I mean, I've come to the point where I just go, it's over to the degree that we're like ancient Rome. The original ancient Rome was pretty much finished at a certain point, but it trickled on. The government, the entity itself trickled on, but it was pretty much a foregone conclusion that they would not last more than whatever they did. Over a period of time, they just went, and I think that's where we're at as a nation.
Yeah,
it'll continue.
Every empire has a beginning and an end so far, an expiration.
Yeah,
and I think we're getting really close.
We're on the expiration side. I mean, it's starting to taste. Everything's starting to taste funny. Hey, is this milk still good? And the date says it's supposed to be okay, but it don't taste, and that's where we're at. It's like everything that happens, you go, this is weird. It should be still okay. Excuse me. Anyway, it just gets to the point, Chris, where you just go, this is too unbelievably irrational. And nobody, why are they telling us? Nobody's going to believe this. It's too crazy. It's too
what kind of makes it fun. I mean, it's unfortunate there are a lot of people that are suffering because of this incompetence or whatever you want to call it. Unfortunately, and for those who aren't suffering like myself, then it's kind of humorous to see them, flopping around trying to cover their butts and perjuring themselves and deleting. It's all going to come out. I mean, they can run, but they can't hide from this. So it's just a matter of time before the truth is exposed. And I hope none of them are culpable of trying to kill, a politician because of his politics. I hope they're just incompetent. We can, and that way we just people in there that are competent.
Maybe that's true. Maybe you're right. I agree with you. I mean, as horrible as that may sound, and as cynical as that sounds, if it's just people that are poorly trained, that were in the wrong place, at the wrong time, that seems to be, but it's just too. It's like you kind of go, come on,
right?
Really?
There's just too many things that went wrong for us to believe that just incompetent. There are just too many. It's just like everything they did or didn't do has been exposed to be detrimental to the whole event. I mean, the whole thing is just total, and you would think they've been doing this for decades. They'd be pretty good at it now, but it doesn't appear that they're any better than they were when I guess they started right before Kennedy. But even in 1960 or something like that. They, I think it was FDR, maybe they started the Secret Service, but anyway.
Well, here's the thing. Even like Crooks. I mean, this is a guy that was removed from his shooting team in high school because they felt he was a danger to the team, which could be anything, because there's a lot of safety rules that you have to apply. It doesn't necessarily mean you can't hit a target, but maybe you're handling the equipment improperly, pointing the gun. I mean, you can get thrown out for safety, for rules violations, which is understandable. It doesn't necessarily mean you're a bad shot, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're a good shot if you get thrown off the team. So if you were, say like you're a weird, dark political agency and you're looking for a shooter, It's like, is that the guy you're gonna? Hey, how'd you do on your
Yeah.
school shooting team? Oh well, pretty good up to a point. Well, oh, okay, you'll do fine. It's like, wait a second, not even
Yeah.
how do you even come up with this guy in the first place? It's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
You're
Well,
right.
there's actually he's been visiting a range close to his house for like a year, training with a rifle, and it's
Oh,
kind of
okay,
funny because a lot of federal agencies actually use the same range to do their qualifications and their training. So
really?
he'd been going to a range that was frequented with federal agents, also training. So, so I mean, I don't know.
Well, then the whole thing. I mean, I guess in hindsight, there's a lot of things. The deeper you dig, the more crazy it gets. Like the whole Black Rock connection, which is
Yeah,
tenuous. I mean, but still, you kind of go, is it?
it's like wow. That's
I mean, how many commercials have you done for Black Rock in the last six?
and how
I
many
mean,
people
how?
have I shot at? But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, there's, but even like the connections are odd, and that could be
and it,
totally circumstantial and
and
have
it
nothing
kind
to
of
do with
brings up this point. I don't know if you remember along those lines a Bruce Springsteen concert back in the '80s. I think it was his Born in the USA tour. Or, anyways, he brings this girl up on the stage, Courtney Cox, and he dances with her for a little bit. Then she goes back into the audience, and everybody thought it was just happenstance, but no, she was actually placed there. He was supposed to bring her up, and then she becomes like the superstar with the
her.
Friends series of the Friends. Or
Courtney Cox. Oh, that's right.
yeah, everybody assumed that she just happened to be there, but it was actually orchestrated for him to. She was being moved or groomed, moved up through the chain of the Hollywood stardom chain, and this was some way of her being exposed to the public. And I don't know. That's what I heard. I mean, I didn't investigate that, but
Well, that's
that's how
interesting. That's be pretty
orchestrated
interesting.
things to be.
Be pretty easy to find out. But
Yeah,
that's
you could.
interesting. I think
I
you,
believe
you
it to be
wonder
true,
you
right?
wonder how all this plays out. Like maybe the lady that was trying to put her gun, she's going to be in the next sitcom coming up. Do you think that
Yeah, yeah. Super cops.
another cop buddy movie?
Reno 911.
Well, I think that's who was. I think that's who they may have had made a mistake. Hey, let's get those guys from Reno 911 to do security. Um,
Yeah, there's this great cop show, Reno 911. We should use those
right. They
guys.
know what they're doing. Well, it's kind of getting to that level where you kind of wonder, like, uh.
Is that a sitcom?
Well, you know what really this is fascinating because there's connections. Like you dig. So like no big surprise. I love the whole UFO thing. I'm fascinated by it. When I started digging into just the government and UFOs and the way the government treats the public and the way they can direct public opinion, like the whole concept of conspiracy theories. Now they're starting to train kids in school on how to identify a conspiracy theorist or a conspiracy theory. This is what I've heard. Now, could be a total lie. I don't know, but this is what I heard. I read an article or heard it from somewhere. But anyway, it doesn't matter. But when you look on where did the concept of the UFO nut come from? UFO
Conspiracy.
nut. Well, well,
Yeah.
well. The whole idea was, oh yeah, the UFO nuts are conspiracy. They're the ones that are
Yeah,
pointing, seeing
exactly.
UFOs. But when you look at it, it was the media that started calling, or media people were planted on shows that would refer to people that saw or believed in UFOs as UFO
Oh,
nuts.
oh,
So,
okay. Yeah, I
like
see what
all
you
of a
mean. Yeah.
sudden, if you were a UFO nut, and people even jokingly would call themselves, "Oh yeah, I'm a UFO nut," and it totally, like, obviously you have no credibility. Obviously,
Right.
whatever
Yeah.
training you may have is of no value. You saw something, but obviously it was swamp gas, right? Obviously it was something that
Yeah.
you can't tell a car or a plane from something burning in a swamp. I mean, you're an idiot. You're a
Right.
nut. Anyway, so that's the whole thing. That's the whole. It's almost like a psyop, a psychological operation
Yes.
to.
You know what I heard? You know who came up with the name, the moniker conspiracy theorist? The
Who is that?
CIA. The CIA came up with that. They start
I mean, I
labeling people.
believe.
I mean,
I believe. I mean, and
I don't
because
know. I was a cop. I was a cop for almost 10 years, an investigator. If someone came up and had this strange story, um, I would take it. I would say, yeah, it sounds strange, but you know what? I would actually look into it because even though it didn't sound, I was still, it's information that I could probably use somewhere later, or introduce me to other people because of
right.
this weird story that just too hard to believe, but it usually involved other people. So I'm getting a chance to get exposed to these other individuals that I'm investigating or I'll run across again at some point in time. So in a way to receive as a law enforcement, to receive a conspiracy theory, you want to take that conspiracy theory and take a look at it. It could lead
Yeah.
somewhere, even maybe it not be correct in what its assumptions were, but it could lead to something else that it's more. I don't know. Have you ever heard of Pizzagate?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I
That was
have.
back
That was a
or
big thing.
right, and everybody that believed that Pizzagate was a real thing, a pedophile hangout and all that, were called
Mhm.
conspiracy theorists. Pizzagate is a real thing now. They have investigated. It was a pizza place they were using to bring children and sexually abuse them in the
Wow.
basement. And they're using pizza as code name for the type of child. So they did the investigation and they found, oh, this actually, and the guy's last name was Elefante. I don't know if they arrested him or something, Stefano Elefante. But anyways, so they found out, and people were being called conspiracy nuts and all that because they believed Pizzagate was actually happening, and it actually happened. So I mean, it's especially the past few years, you're really seeing a lot of these conspiracy theories come to fruition. Like, oh, that wasn't a conspiracy theory; that actually happened because
Yeah, it
people are
wasn't.
not
It was a
along.
conspiracy, but it wasn't a theory. And I think, to me, it's like when you look at this stuff and you hear about it. And to be fair, um, there are people that lie about stuff to
Sure,
get attention. I mean, it's not a stretch for people to become delusional. There, that happens, but some of the stuff is just, it's just like, if you had a doctor come into, say, like you're working with the police and a doctor comes into your office, he goes, hey, I just had a woman come in, she's badly bruised, you know, I think she's been beaten. It's like, this guy has credibility, he's a doctor. You would take that
yeah,
seriously. If a security person or a police detective said, hey, look, I'm in my line of work and I saw this guy looks suspicious and I got to check. So what you do. And that's what I mean. So you have these people with credibility in their field that are doing what they're doing, and they go, hey, there's something not right about the way this security operation is being run. There's something wrong with it. It just doesn't
yeah,
seem right. So, I mean, and I get it. They're like, I was just, a friend of mine's an army. He's a major, I think, in the Army National Guard, and he was just talking about the politics within the military. How they have, he's like a liaison, and I won't give his name. It doesn't matter, but he goes into liaise and do what he's supposed to be doing, and the officer above him is that he's supposed to be working with is going, oh, just go
uh,
away, just go away. I don't want to have to. So within any organization of any size, there's going to be weird politics and people in charge that don't want to play along with other people in charge. And anyway, so I mean, I get some of that. That nothing is perfect. and you have a security operation, and it doesn't mean you can't slip through and kill somebody, kill the people they're protecting. I mean,
right.
That's pretty common knowledge that even though you're surrounded by security, somebody can put a gun in their pocket, maybe it's plastic, somehow slip through and do damage, whether to themselves or someone else or the person that they're after. So they did it to Reagan, they did it to Kennedy, that's happened before. So even with security, bad things can happen. But when you look at some of the details of this, you leave with a bad taste in your mouth, right? I mean, the fact they can't find Maxwell Electric or whatever, what was his name? I can't remember
Maxwell,
that.
yeah, you're
Rich Trick or whatever his name was. They can't find this guy anywhere. And yet, is it just more misdirection from, saying that there's some sort of second shooter? Is it Uric? Is it just more misdirection, or is there something really here? And the fact that we know nothing, they still can't find the guy. That's not the big country. He could be anywhere, but I mean, it just.
But the thing is, they could at least update it. Go, oh, we found him. We haven't found him. He's still missing. Nobody knows. Nobody
really
cares.
Isn't much here. I typed in. I just did a search. So I went to videos. There's a lot of videos. There's Maxwell Euro. Oh, somehow Roseanne Maxwell's coming up in the headline. I don't know. Anyway, but the fact that there really isn't much when you click on news, there's nothing that's recent on any of this. Let me see here. Tools, recent. Let's say the past week. Let's see what comes up. Nothing. There's been nothing in the past week on this guy. What's that?
I think we pretty much beat this horse to death.
You think so? I think the horse is still moving, Chris. Let's make sure.
At least for today.
Yes, you're right. All right. It's always fun. It's always fun.
All right. Yes. There'll be another day. Swamp Gas Files. Salute.
Swamp Gas Files. Yeah. Yep. We're going to have to dig up something else. Dig up another dead horse.
Oh, yeah. There's plenty. Plenty. All right, man. All right, Mike.
All right.
See you later.
See you later.